Unless you're closer to lunch line.
I'm going to call this work session of July 10, 2018 to order, and I will turn the business over to Chief Schallenberg.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate everybody coming in tonight. We've got a good crowd here. So, some people that made some longer trips to be up here, and family and friends. So, we went through a process to fill a vacancy for our captain's position. We have a lot of qualified people in our organization. So, and Kyle did very well through all the testing process. We had interviews, a written test, some situational interview or situational things on the for fire. So it was kind of an assessment center. So he did very well through all that. He's been an employee here for 10 years. Served as a lieutenant and obviously a firefighter. He actually worked on my shift for a while, and Brady was a little smaller then, so, and growing up there, so we've kind of seen him progress. He's had skills that he's obtained for trot membership, rescue, rope rescue, trench, so he's really worked hard to progress his skills within the fire department. Then also as a person, I think anybody in this room would say that, Kyle's a good guy. I mean, he works with you well, presents himself well on calls, good medic. Maybe not at home so much, but here he does a good job. So, and works well with others. And I think the guys have respect for him, and he's earned that. And brings a good family. I've met his dad before. Always a good person. Talks well of you when he's around. I've seen him there working on some of the pipeline stuff. And some of the other people in the audience, I think, would have good things to say about him also if they were up here. So, obviously, you got your friend, Mr. Martin, there, made the trip from Dalton. And Jackson, person also, so knows you well. And we appreciate all that. I think you'd be a valuable part of our team. Because the captain's role is very important in our organization. Because even though I'd like to be on every call, I do occasionally do take a day off. As a captain or the battalion filling in, there's a lot of responsibility. Could run the entire call if nobody else is in town. Chief Reed's off or I'm off. So it is important that we pick somebody operationally that can handle that kind of situation, and then obviously the day-to-day tasks for payroll and employee issues and all the other stuff that come along with it. So. He'll be promoted to third shift where he's currently on, filling that vacancy, and then we'll go from there after the first year. So, but had some trips planned there, so we didn't want to mess up his vacation plans and switch shifts all around on him. So, anyway, so it's my pleasure that I'll be able to promote you to captain this evening, along with the board of trustees. So, they could come down and we'll start all that. And then we'll, if you'd like somebody to send the badge, you can pick the person there.
Okay, Kyle, we're going right up here. So before we get started, I just want to say this is especially an honor for me because I hired Kyle. So, to see him grow, to see him gain in his professional development, it's kind of like watching one of your kids. So you kind of take advantage of that. So if I seem like I'm a little bit emotional, it's from the heart. So usually when we do this, we kind of stand where everybody can see. But as you can see, Kyle stands well above me, so I can stand with my back to you, and you can still see him. So I think that's what we'll do. So we'll go ahead and swear you in. So if you want to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. That I will support. The Constitution, laws, and resolutions. Of the United States. State of Ohio. And Plain Township. And I will faithfully. Honestly. And impartially. Discharge my duties. As a captain of the Plain Township Fire Department. Protecting life and property. Respecting the rules.
respecting the rules,
regulations,
regulations,
and policies
and policies,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
Let me be the first to congratulate. So now I think let's do the pinning first, then we'll do the housekeeping.
Isn't that there? If I can get back at this.
I know.
Oh, red on the roof, you
Yeah.
turn red or?
Congratulations.
Does he look like that?
Trustee Lino has your helmet there. Yeah, we also have your shirt badge and all that, we can get to work afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, you want to say anything?
Get your 20-second fame.
I want to thank the board of trustees, the administrator, and the chief for, allowing me to take this position and do the best of my abilities to protect and serve all the residents and the visitors of this community. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
I call this meeting of July 10, 2018 of Plain Township Board of Trustees to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would make a motion to appoint Luther Russer as fiscal officer pro tem.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes. Just let the record reflect that that's all. You okay with that?
Rob, start their meeting.
As I was saying, just let the record reflect that actually Mr. Wolf's out on a pre-approved time away vacation, overdue vacation between tax season and everything that's been going on here at the time, so.
That brings us then to the agenda. Does anybody have any corrections, additions, deletions? Mr. Ferrara?
Yes, sir, zoning does. Item number 1, items A, C, E, and F will be removed.
Do the best.
A, C, E, and F.
Okay, that's it for you?
That's it for me.
Okay, under
Yeah, under law director, I have one addition, certification to auditor.
It's under concerns of trustees and the local square.
anyone else? The agenda will stand based on the editing. So that brings us to unfinished business.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to amend the attached resolution 18-308 that's paid an amount not to exceed $5,500 from Fund 09A of 7 for Mixol Solution Service Agreement.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
The fund number is what has been changed.
Roll call.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
And see, since we have no new business, that takes us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Russell.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first thing on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of the pending warrants in the amount of $117,506.72.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
The second item on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of the regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize the following medical claims as provided by All Care.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 3.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
The next thing on the agenda is the financial report for the month of June 2018.
If you have questions, see them as questions afterwards.
Okay. The fifth item on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers that are listed.
I will so move.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
The sixth item on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of the zoning boards
Bless you.
from the month of January through June of 2018 at a rate of $50 per meeting for a grand total of $800.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Pretty quiet, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's picking up real quick. These next few months we'll be busy.
Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Okay. The seventh item on the agenda is a request for resolution to request an additional amended certificate of estimated resources and to appropriate these funds.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Okay, the final item on the agenda is a request for resolution to set a public hearing for the 2019 alternative tax budget on July 24th at 6:15 p.m. and to authorize the fiscal officer to publish a notice in the repository.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
And that concludes the fiscal officer.
That takes us to the administrator.
Thank you. Item number 1 is in regards to our meetings for December. It's a change of the date, so take note of that. It's to amend the initial resolution 18-004, which was passed January 9th, to change the date of the Board of Trustees meeting from December 4th, which is the first Tuesday, to December 11th, the second Tuesday.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, we changed them not only because of a holiday, but secondly, because it's the end of the year for the fiscal office, and it would have been very difficult to close out the year.
The month.
Or
It's
the
the second,
month.
it's the second workday of the
Yeah.
month,
That would
and
have to be closed
we
out.
have to close the month before we can do anything.
Good catch on that then. Anything else? Roll call.
That's a good change.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
And Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 2, I have under administration, however, I'm going to turn it over to either Tom or Chief to discuss and present the resolution.
Yeah, we had sent paperwork in the house on Sandalwood, we had asked the resident to board up a window, and then the zoning had done some work with high grass, right, and some
Yes.
other things. They took care of that, the window is still unsecure. It since then went to the bank. The bank actually owns it now, so we're just trying to get the secured for animals, et cetera. So, one window, and I thought there was a door also or something that would need security. So,
And so you have a resolution under 505.86, and that is what allows the securing of the building.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion.
To clarify, the expense associated with doing that work is put on the tax.
It does.
Which ultimately gets us paid for that. It's not
Sure does.
pro bono.
We've actually been pretty successful on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? It's been moved and seconded, we already had that, roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
and Mr. Lino.
Yes.
And that's the end of the administrator report.
Thank you, that takes us to fire, Chief Schallenberger.
Thank you. I just have one item this evening. Resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize purchase and payment of tires to Goodyear Commercial Tire for an amount not to exceed $11,500 to be taken from the following accounts. 28A, EMS, and 10A, ODI for fire.
I'll move on FD1.
Second. Second, Mr. Lino.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Lino,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
That concludes fire department business. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Takes the road, Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number one is a resolution for the Plain Township Board of Trustees to participate in the Stark County Engineers Cooperative Purchase of Salt Program for the 2018-19 season at $68.22 a ton dump from Cargill Incorporated.
I'll move on road 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Where does that stand?
Price went up $13.48 a ton from last year. No reasons that we're receiving.
That's
So,
gouging as far
we're
as.
still on the old price, and I filled our salt building up recently.
Nice job.
I'll say, probably over $13,000 should be clear. We're gonna have Scott do his dance early this year.
We don't have any more
We have a
salt.
late winter.
We don't have any more salt control devices that we can implement.
We're implementing a new one this year, but that's hopefully, we're gonna late winter.
Yeah, that's kind of demoralizing.
Yeah, that's.
We just gotta
It is.
keep our
Well,
fingers
I
crossed.
mean, and the other options, just so that, for the sake of the public, they don't understand that, hey, we're just not, I mean, there's consortiums through University and Akron, through the state, but nothing just even comes close to touching us. Even on this price, and when we did consider the state bet 1 year, yeah, they offered a great price, but nobody was able to get salt, so price means nothing if you can't get the material. And
The state's price isn't out yet. They so.
And the state, the thing is, the states, they require you to take. You order it, you have to take it.
You gotta take it, but you gotta call them out back somewhere.
Didn't we have some people this past year asking if we had extra that they could buy?
Yeah. We did.
All right, good job on that. Roll call?
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
and Mr. Lino.
Yes.
Item number two is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase of gasoline, oil, diesel fuel from Macintosh Oil not to exceed $20,000.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Lino,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
And item number three is just informational from the Ohio Department of Transportation on the proposed US 62 roadway improvement project. There's a public hearing on July 26th, starting at 4:30 at the St. George Orthodox Event Center located on 30th Street northwest in Canton.
This is really a continuation of what started, well, about two years ago. This is the tail end, really, from the noise study.
Yeah, they're still looking at 2022 for actual construction. Start this one.
There's been some changes
Yes.
since
yes,
the original that they came out with.
yes. Tom and I met out there with ODOT and some of the business owners, so we're probably going to see something else, hopefully, at this meeting, change.
And we do have the environmental assessment that they did here at the township. If any residents want to come and take a look at it, it's here all the time.
When we say environmental assessment, it's predominantly noise.
Yeah, it's the environmental impacts, it would be noise.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'll find it on.
Everything going to be there, so.
Yeah, John,
That's the 26th. Actually, we'll have a meeting on the 24th, so we'll probably, maybe even that night, we could talk a little bit about what those changes were, so we can kind of be brought up to speed. It'll probably only take about 15 minutes, because we're pretty familiar with the original drawing. That's all. Yeah. Our next meeting's the 24th, and that'll be Thursday after.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to zoning.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare items B, D, and G, B, D, and G as nuisance abatement.
So moved. I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And I think that's it for you.
That's it for zoning.
Thank you. Let's move to parks.
I'll keep it short and sweet. The only item tonight is a resolution to purchase fertilizer for all of the parks in an amount of $2,473 from Fund OLAF 02A from Central Farm and Garden.
I'll move on Parks 1. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. That will take us to the law director.
Yes, just one item on the agenda. This is our continuing effort to, yeah, it's the same thing, to kind of figure out what direction you guys want to go with regard to Myers Lake and the fire services there. This is step 1 in what would be 2 resolutions to put some issues on the ballot within that area, the portion of Myers Lake that is also in Hunt Township. This simply is asking the auditor to certify some numbers for us, so it does not mean that you are putting it on the ballot. This is just the first step if you want to take that tonight.
I will so move on law director number 1.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. This is the absolute best place and first place to start because of its legal complications.
Yes, many, and they are many.
Yes.
So that's why that's 5-some pages of gobbledygook in front of you. We're trying to just kind of hit all the
Essentially has to do with 4 different sections of Ohio revised code that have conflicting opinions where essentially we can pursue this option, 1 or 2 parties are happy, but somebody else may not be. So
Yeah.
this could come down to ultimately the state legislature is going to have to do something to reconcile the differences amongst those sections of the revised code.
Yeah, this is a really unique situation that we have not found
Anywhere else?
to have happened anywhere in the state of Ohio to this point, at least that we've found. So we'll take a swing at it and see what happens.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. That takes us to communications.
Yes, the Board of Trustees received a communication from Tracy Rohr. You also received 2 containers full of brownies from Tracy, which your administrative staff thought they could go bad if we called you in to eat them. So we thought we'd take that kind of pressure off of you and just take care of those brownies ourselves.
It is nice to know that the resident's been somebody who, from a positive aspect, I mean, is vocal, but has always been willing to work with the board. So, I mean, given the sensitivity, especially over around the Hall of Fame Village and the 6277 Fulton Road interchange work, I think it's fair to note that she actually sought out and hand-delivered to Trustee Lino the brownie. So
Yeah, that's how grateful she was.
I envy your strength, Trustee Lino, that there wasn't even a single piece missing by the time they got here. So
Can we confirm?
yeah.
Well, I don't know that. But after he delivered them, there wasn't a single brownie. He said, "Can I have a brownie?" And I said, "What are you talking about, brownie?" But let me read the thank you because it's very nice. It says, "Thank you for always listening and for all your effort to solve our problems. I am proud to be a Plain Township resident. We have the best people representing us. Thank you, Tracy Moore."
Very nice. Yeah, we worked on all the issues. And that's it for communication. That brings us to the portion of the meeting of public speaks. If there is anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board, please state your name and address for the fiscal officer, and then you're welcome to stand in the position that you're in. You can sit in the position that you're in, or you can come up to the podium. Anything.
This will only take about 30 minutes. Now, I am Carl Wagner, I live on 1303 Stone Crossing. I've talked to a couple. The question is, I'm sure you're addressing the closing of Easton Street and Market. And I'm sure that you're going to not run those through a residential area. However, with those thoughts in mind, the drivers don't necessarily have the same idea, as they haven't since you closed the other side. In our area, and the parks is concern as well here. Stark Park's what I'm talking about, because right now, there is a tremendous number of people that use it. For an example, and this is just one occasion, I came home from church Sunday. Coming up Lexington Farms, on that end of Stone Crossing, there are cars parked equally spaced on each side of the road, parked. And I know there's sidewalks and so on. But my encounter was, when I came up, there were 3 bikers, 2 runners, and 2 people walking with kids. And I stopped because there was no room between to go through. However, there was a car come bouncing over the hill, and I waited. As you know, they do not stop at Harness. They do not stop. When I came up here this evening, I left, pulled out my drive, a car went whizzing by me, and never stopped at Harness Circle. So they just don't stop. My concern is, too, the park people are they like the park. They like to walk. They do that. And my concern is 2 things. Can we do something by either putting temporary signs on Lexington Farm on that to at least stop parking on one side? Because when you park on both sides, we have college kids and kids. I have kids across the street in our area, and that's my concern because, again, this was Sunday. A little guy who was just big enough to pedal a bike, if he's even that, got out in the street, went in down one driveway and back out, and I waited on him. But as soon as I went by, there was another car, and the mother came out to get him off the street. So I'm concerned once that street is closed, I know they're not going to use Apple Grove. They're going to use that as a shortcut to get by. Because the corner down there, until they get it open where people can make left turns, it's impossible. So that's one of my concerns is, what are we going to do? And do we have an answer when the park trails will be open, the underpass, or in other words, do you have anything in place to help protect those people walking in the community?
If you guys don't mind, I'll take the first stab at this. There's a couple things. One that the state and the county are the entities that actually have control over Easton and mark it. So they're the ones that coordinate the closures and then keep Joe and the township informed. So we don't necessarily get to have a direct saying, hey, you can shut this off during these periods because they're not township access roads. Now, with how that affects and diverts traffic, I can tell you, quite frankly, as long as it's a public road, if they're traveling at speed and they're meeting proper weight limits, they absolutely have the right, whether we like it or not. Because I've had it over in Saratoga Hills where I lived previously. They have the right to use that public roadway. So from an enforcement aspect of it, we can definitely ask during this tenure, especially the 12 days that they're looking, is it 12 days they were gonna close it? I know that they just pushed back.
Basically changed.
We were just informed this morning, we can have the sheriff target additional patrol over there for the sake of monitoring the speeding, which is an issue, which is a noted issue of yours, but as well, given the increased volume, further compounding that. With respect to the no parking on the streets, historically, the only reason that no parking has been allowed on the roads is one, either vehicles have to be by Ohio Revised Code of Zoning unlicensed and inoperable, or two, we've got weather-related conditions that the board will put in place a parking ban, or three, it's typically special events related. Now, I will tell you, as I've explained and explored with other situations, if we have vehicles parking on a road and Chuck can't get a rescue truck, a medic unit, or anything through there, and I'm sure John, prior chief, will absolutely push it from that aspect, because if I can't get a rescue unit through to somebody's home, and we're talking life or death, well, guess what? I'm sure we have a justifiable and valid reason to be able to do that. As far as from, let's see, traffic, what else is there anything else I'm missing? Guys, I want to make sure I'm thorough.
Well, and it's an enforcement issue as far as stop signs go.
Yeah, I talked with Joe here the other day, I talked with the deputies, I went to the road department, and I guess what they've talked about is putting a speed sign up. And I know that I asked if we could put temporary no parking on that side, because you see, there's how many holes going up there just in there's construction like crazy, they can't get through there when they park on both sides. I politely asked the one guy, if they would cease to quit parking directly side by side, if you up there where the Lexington Farms is building, if you would not park on both sides the same position, if you park it all on one side, he wouldn't even respond to me.
Let me ask you this. If the board found a legal means in which to be able to put that in place, do you understand and would you and your neighbors openly accept the fact that that even means you guys can't be parking on the street? And I'm asking that because I've had a situation over by Walsh where we're talking all this area, and we had some residents that raised that concern and thought it was like, oh, okay, well, there was no parking for anybody else, but we should still be. And when we put those signs up, I mean, no parking means no parking, whether it's folks that are traveling through, using the trails, visiting, or homeowners right there. I mean, did you see that presenting an issue? Just trying to feel a way through this.
If you were to drive up and down that street and on the rest of Stone Crossing, and you asked me that question, you wouldn't have to ask me that question. Because there's a lot of cars, especially down in the Lexington Farm. There are some parked down as you come out Morales. They park just in the corner, and that causes a problem when you've got a conflicting cars wanting to turn left and turn right coming through it. It would have to be on
the intersection to begin with, right?
Yeah, I thought you couldn't park so close to the intersection anyway, but that's where Bruce Shorston is. There's cars parked. But anyway, my concern is safety here. I understand if I were to go out and ask for a petition and present it to them, I would maybe get 6 names, the rest of the people wouldn't want anything to do. I'm thinking about something temporary, at least while we could close
Board
it.
has asked for at least 51% of either that walk or posted no parking, because we've had problems in the past when we put them up to just a couple people that wanted them, and we ended up taking them down. So it's been a while since we've actually put up any new no parkings, but we've always asked for at least 51% of the people affected on that walk for permanent no parking signs.
Are these residents parking there? Who's the park?
There's a resident.
They're all
Most of those
residents?
residents, they have a 2-car garage,
Yeah.
and they have 3 cars.
And it's
And
parking
the
in
car in the
driveway.
garage, they don't want to park in the driveway because I can't get out. So they park 1 car in and the 2 cars outside. And if they parked on one side, it wouldn't be bad. But when they're parked at the same person,
It creates strange blind spots, because I can tell you, even over off Plumber's, when I was over there, I had the same thing. Because the driveway's offset and then how they park.
Especially that,
you couldn't even get construction through. They was having to move, and construction people was parked the same way. I think they was doing roofing and et cetera. Doesn't make it. My concern is mainly for this 2 weeks or so.
Captain Springer, if you were to look at that and find it to be a safety issue because of the start parks, the walkers crossing, him almost hitting them, people almost hit because of the parked cars, if we can look at it as a safety issue, then can we look at maybe having them only park on one side because of that safety issue?
Well, see, my concern is there, exactly what you're saying. We have signs up, park trail, down through you're inviting them to come down through there, and I know it ends. People go down now, and they get at the end of, down by Market, and they turn around and come back. So we've invited them out. There is no sidewalks, so they are in the road.
Which I do think, because we haven't really talked on the other portion of your point, which was the start parks, because I think we had some email exchange with an individual, a lady that lived over in that area, talking about what was removed on the corner of Easton and Market, which was really just a temporary trail section until they got the permanent tunnel and so forth done, to which Bob Bond has responded. There's not an intention to run anything back down from, say, Stonehenge to Easton and across, because ultimately how that trail is going to be connected coming through Washington Square. You'll have the tunnel undergoing Market, coming up onto the golf course side, and that trail, if I recall right, sort of loops around.
Lexington Farms.
Yeah, it'll loop around the edge of Stonehenge and the fountains at Edgewood, and ties down into Lexington. So I know Bob's not looking at anything more, and it's really, hey, we've got a short-term break in that trail, because actually the lady that was communicating with us by email, some of her concerns had to do with her vision and other health issues. So the start parks, the trail, actually that tunnel went in a lot earlier than they had anticipated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in three-year segments from
they'll be done
the Grove, then Apple Grove, and then Apple Grove up to Mount Pleasant. So,
when I was mentioning about the park trails, because the issues you're going to have to address pretty soon is 4 lanes. 4 lanes of traffic they're going to have to cross.
but that's what the tunnel is.
I know, but my point was,
Right now,
if it was going to be opened, or how we're progressing on that.
Mr. Ross, I after talking to Mr. Wagner, I think it was last week, I scheduled our speed buggy to be put out there the week of the closing. It was going to go out there tomorrow, but now since they delayed it, I'll put it out there next Monday. It helps the sheriff's department, target the bad times and when it is, but it also helps slow down traffic during this road closure. Because people will find their way around. It doesn't matter. If you live there, you're going to find your way around.
So you think if there's more from people traveling from east to west or west to east?
I'm gonna guess east to west.
Just wait, is that?
Well, yeah, because they're gonna use it both ways. They're gonna
Correct.
come-
Yeah.
come
I'm
down
just thinking, which way are we gonna turn it?
And they're gonna,
Well,
especially,
they'll do
I'll
it
move.
both ways.
Both ways.
He does it both ways.
especially with the evening traffic, because, man, they are.
Especially with it being
My main
warm and
concern
everybody's
is
out.
people is strictly safety here. With a
No,
lot of
that's
kids
more
on
than
the-
fair and
And
reasonable.
I'm just trying to remember again, there are no sidewalks on Stone Crossing?
No, there is on that northern side, if you want to call it that, but up in Lexington, there are sidewalks. Down, once you cross
Okay.
that by Harness Circle,
That's
there
what
are no
confused us.
sidewalks.
A couple times when I ran, doesn't that
And
trail
there is
run along
not
your street
going
too?
on up there.
No, they took it out.
Oh, okay.
Cul-de-sac.
All right.
So in Lexington Farms, there's a sidewalk is the trail.
Correct, yes.
And then once you get up to Stone Crossing, from the new area, there is no sidewalk. Basically, it just, it ends. And then there is the trail, and they actually did post no trail signs on Morellis, and just past, by his house, down on Bellevue. They put trail closed, and then, from what Mr. Fonzie said the one time, is that they could not finish the tunnel, and I don't want to, I might misquote him here a little bit, until they got 43 done, because it's an active state project, and they wouldn't allow them to do something. So that's what's holding them up, was the connection up around, I guess you say.
They can't go under traffic.
Right, until they get all the
That makes
safety done or whatever they've got going. But right now, it basically, he's right, you come down the market, and you gotta cross the construction if you wanna continue, or you turn around. You know, you're kinda stuck. You can't go down to the red light anymore, they took that out, and,
So I guess though, I mean, we've talked a lot here. We've talked a lot of piece parts, but to bring this all back through, to try to summarize it, close it. One, from a safety aspect, you're gonna have the speed buggy out there, we can provide reporting to the sheriff. Two, unfortunately, since the sheriff had this, actually, we got certain. I mean,
I already talked.
given this is one of those times, I mean, I know we get requests, hey, we need more patrols, or this really is gonna be more of a heavy traffic intense time period for about a 12-day period. If during the shifts, they can be notified, hey, during these peak hours, we can put a little more of an emphasis on it.
They are out there, and I thank them for that. And quite honestly, you brought up, there's a lot of local people that don't pay attention to the stop sign. The stop sign.
That's your most, any neighborhood, whether it's Plain Township, Alliance, North Canton, live within a mile and a half of the most frequent violators.
Driving, I think, is all over people, the mindset, that the stop signs will slow down and keep going.
We can work, actually, if you would want to call, I don't know, Lisa, can we secure, maybe say an update from Bob on, just on what he knows based upon ODOT's timetable, what he's being told, so we can convey that back to the
September.
That was ODOT's projection that by the end of September.
That's what I've heard before.
Yeah.
That's ODOT's projection.
Yeah, but then we have to start Parks Trail out of that, so if we can just get an update from Bob and then provide, so we can answer, we can get you an update on the start part, on the safety side of it, controls.
I thank everybody that goes, and the sheriff, they've been good, I've seen them out parked, and just presence is enough to make it. No, safety, I hate to see a little kid or somebody, and the walker, because really, they are using that trail, I mean, it is heavy on the weekend, especially.
Being a hit and run victim, definitely take that seriously,
Well,
so.
when I go to get my mailbox, and my mailbox is here, and I'm standing here, and I'm watching a car come straight at me, and I gotta get off the little, they don't pay attention. Hey, thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. White. We'll take a look into all of this. Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update. This is Edward Mathis, 2541 Andrew. I promised Mr. Furrow I'd stop up and let you guys, we had a little bit of a setback because my mom, doctor's appointments and stuff, and surgery and all that, but yeah, we got back on track and then, so. I just, like I said, I promised him I'd stop up and let you guys know. Okay?
Well, we appreciate the progress, keep following up on your word, because you wouldn't believe how many times you get folks that promise and then don't deliver, but I mean, the board takes into more than reasonable consideration. Family is a priority, number one. I would just tell you to be safe with this hot, humidity. Last thing I want to hear is heat stroke or heat exhaustion.
Well, the only thing we get some pop-up storms.
Yeah.
It put the hurt to us.
Well, you've been so cooperative through this entire process, and as long as we have that, any hardships or anything, we'll certainly consider that cooperativeness.
All right, thank you.
Because again, you know, we're just looking to get it done, and
That's
it's
pretty much.
obvious there's movement. So thank you for coming in, giving us that
Well, I
report.
promised that to Tom, so.
Okay.
Sir, I've been by there a few times since we last met, and there is progress. He is working on it.
Good. Well, good luck on your mom's health issue too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Concerns of trustees, Mr. Haas?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the city. I was approached by a number of the establishments behind us in Oakwood Square Plaza. They're looking to do a second parking lot party. The intention is to draw attention to the continued improvements back there. It's supposed to be August 1st, 5 to 9. I was approached about, the township is having some involvement given the history back here. I just wanted to bring up, as thrown out. I think it would be venturesome for us to actually be involved in that from the aspect of, just having a fire, whether it's a medic or a rescue truck, sort of as a touch truck, as well as one of our sheriff's cruisers over there. Just asking a combination of the sheriff and or fire chief. We do that as, normal staffing if possible, that way with the understanding, hey, if they need to go, we're not incurring, unnecessary expense, but, last year, for the first time event, I was there, firsthand, it had an exceptional turnout, and that was just on 2 weeks planning. 2, it was extremely family friendly. I mean, they had some bounce house game stuff. They're looking to mirror that, obviously, because it gets a little later in the evening, most of that stuff kids will be home, but for the sake of discussing our involvement, I wanted to see if you guys are amicable to that. I mean, I think it's a sign, it's a good gesture back there, plus it helps show that, hey, we're continuing to partner with these folks on what's been a long overdue project, but it's representing a significant capital injection into
I agree.
plaza. So
It was a nice event. Of course, the weather was absolutely perfect.
and actually, as part of it, a portion of, they had asked me about nonprofit, because of this parking lot, they have to give proceeds to nonprofit. So I've already talked with Mr. Bowman out of the SAM Center, so we're going to be channeling somebody there with a partner, obviously, down here at the township. So we benefited last year with Veterans Park, and given our relationship with the SAM Center, that's totally fine.
Okay, that's all I have. All right. So that takes us to the approval of the minutes for the June 26th, so I will move on the approval of the minutes. Second. Been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
So we do have a need for an executive session, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:43 p.m. from this regular meeting of July 10th, as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 1B, employment of public employer official, 1D, discipline of public employer official, 1E, promotion or demotion of a public employer official, and 1F, compensation of a public employee or official. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.